Is a Danielle Hunter trade coming? We'll talk about that right after this. After a long offseason and really no news on the Danielle Hunter front, today a little bit did finally come out of kind of what's been going on behind the scenes. Now, as they do normally say, when things are quiet with negotiations, things are going well. But the news we found out today doesn't necessarily lean into that direction. We'll just pop that the quote up here. Ian Rappaport appeared on NFL Network today. Mini camps live on NFL Plus. And came out with this news: the Vikings are receiving trade calls centered around star pass rusher Danielle Hunter, and the interest is real, sources say. And they talk about kind of the complex situation with Danielle Hunter. Yeah, man. When it comes to Danielle Hunter and trades, I what what are your feelings on that? I'm at a point I don't really know exactly how to feel with that right now.
Yeah. First of all, hit subscribe and tap that bell. Other than that, I think it's a really bad idea from competitive rebuild side of things. Like if you go into next season and you lose and you don't have Danielle Hunter, so this is like the two options I kind of have. So obviously, if you trade Danielle Hunter, our defense has no pass rushers. Pretty much, you have Davenport, who 2 years ago had a good pass rushing season, but last year wasn't great at all. He had a half a sack. Hopefully, we see the Davenport from the year before, but you can't bank on that. So outside of that, we really don't have anything, especially we don't have anything on the defensive line. Nothing for sure. We don't have anyone that's like a for sure pass rusher there. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we have. I do like Harrison Smith with Flores, but obviously he's not going to be, blitzing all the time. That's like Harrison Smith seems like the only guy that is like a pass rushing type of player left, and he's our safety. Right. So if that happens, I think you definitely go away with being a competitive team, kind of. Just because you have no pass rushers and you're going in next season. Yeah, you got Flores now, but you have no pass rushers. So I think I think that's kind of going against what you want. But on the other side of things, on the rebuild side of things, obviously, if you get something, so no matter what, we do not trade him unless it's absolutely something crazy. At least a first round pick, at the very least a first round pick, and if you do make that trade, and the idea is hopefully we can get more capital for next year's draft and go grab the quarterback that everybody wants, including us. So if that does happen, then you just feel like you're leaning towards the rebuild side more than the competitive side at that point. And it really looks like you're going towards more focus on the quarterback of the future and the future of this team than you are right now. That's kind of how I would take it, just because I really do. I mean, you're missing that's a huge hole in your defense. Probably the most important player on our defense right now. I 100% think it's the most important player on our defense right now. So I guess it's just, what do you want? If it's me, you'd have to just, I think there's probably a price for almost anybody. And I'd want to see at least a first round pick, because I really do want the quarterback future. It'd be nice, but at the same time, we know for a fact our defense is taking a hit. Yeah, 100%. I guess that's where I'm at with it all, but.
Yeah. Ian Rappaport also did say that the Vikings had tried to maybe discuss like a Band-Aid deal for 2023, and then they'd revisit it after that. And I'm kind of on Daniel's side with this. If I'm him, he's kind of, I mean, and I get it. Initially, we said it was Zadarius too when he complained about his contract. You did sign the contract. Danielle Hunter did sign a year earlier than he should have. We got him a little bit cheaper for that reason, because he hadn't really sprouted into the pass rushing monster that he became in his early mid 20s. So from his point, but also from his point, I 100% understand. Like, if you do that again, what happens if he comes out this year and gets hurt? Then he's got no financial cushion at all, and is no contract after this. I believe this season will be the last one on his deal. So then at that point, he's kind of hanging in limbo there as well. I mean, obviously the hope is, you can't expect that. The hope is he comes in the season. Flores turns him into, brings him back to his glory days, even though last year playing out of position still had 10.5 sacks.
Right.
But I see from his positions, like, I've been doing this for the last few years. Yes, he was hurt a couple years, but last year he did that. Like, when he reworked his contract last year, the plan behind it was one more year. If I play well enough, you either sign me or trade me somewhere else, because if we cut him,
Right.
we end up $5 million in the hole. It's a
Yeah.
$18 million
Makes
dead
zero
cap hit
sense
or
to that
something
for
like that.
sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it wouldn't make any sense to do that. So from his point, I
Mhm.
100% understand. And the thing is,
Me too.
the reason I just don't feel like a trade's actually going to happen is, like, I put it on Twitter earlier today. I would have been 100% fine with a trade before the draft if we would have gotten a first round pick, because then you bring in a then you're able to use your first round pick on a pass rusher. I know there weren't a ton of like high ranking edge rushers in this class, but you could still grab one in the first round, maybe trade back into the second round
Well, we
and
know Nolan
pick
Smith
up
was
one there.
there towards the end.
Right. So yeah, we could have ended up with a Nolan Smith potentially. But now it just feels out of place. And like you said, behind him, there's nothing. You got, yeah, Marcus Davenport, who, yeah, you're hoping he bounces back. He's still young and he's shown he can do it, but
Right.
injuries, and like you said, half a sack last year. Then you got the kind of the unknowns. DJ Wanham has had a few years in this league and he's had some moments, but he hasn't become a solid pass rusher like we wanted him to be. And then
He's not
Patrick
like a
Jones.
high end like he doesn't
Right.
have the physical abilities to just absolutely dominate a game, but he'll
Right.
get his sacks type of
Yeah.
thing.
And then you got Patrick Jones, who, we're expecting him to take a step this year. We don't know how big of a step that'll be. Then outside of that, you got some young guys and just some other like defensive interior guys who aren't really get after the passer type guys. So to me, a trade right now wouldn't make any sense. But that's the thing. If Kwesi's blown away, if he gets a first and a third offer, and there's
Right.
really no way you can make a Danielle Hunter contract work, then I get it. But then you look at this upcoming season, and
Right.
after with Za'Darius gone and no, maybe Andre Carter does something, but still, you can't expect that from an undrafted free agent. But there's
Yeah.
no other guy who you look at and say, oh, this guy's going to get after the quarterback this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird because I get it, but I would have gotten it more before the draft this year. So it's just
Yeah.
the timing just seems off. But but that's the thing. They're saying that also at Rappaport said like the interest is real. So
Yeah. And
who
it should be. I mean, his contract, he's not coming in with a over expensive contract or anything. Like he should be extremely valuable. I would think he would be
right?
at this
But why?
point.
But the thing that I am wondering is why all of a sudden now is this coming out? So as when news like this drops, someone when they talk about their sources, who try the sources behind all this, someone had to leak this to the media. So you figure it's probably Danielle Hunter's camp trying to kind of force the Vikings' hand at something, by saying, oh, they try to do a band-aid deal. They're trying to make it work for the season. No deal is imminent, but he's getting offers from around the league. So maybe this source, Danielle Hunter's side of the his agent or his representatives, are putting this out there to try to either force the Vikings to make a trade, or you're going to get a bunch of trade calls now because the feeling out there is, oh, the Vikings are willing to move Danielle Hunter because news of them getting calls is out there. So I think it's just kind of a way of Hunter saying, I'm tired of this dragging out. I'm not gonna go on social media and do anything stupid, but my representatives will kind of push the ticket here, like make a move.
Yeah.
Something.
And
tired of
I'm
sitting in
assuming
limbo.
we probably got calls earlier on. I mean, I'm assuming, and that's the thing is, I mean, I don't know how to take it for sure. Obviously, they say the Vikings have received calls. Does that also mean that they've been taking the calls? Are they listening to these calls? I mean, for how big this news seems to be, I'm assuming they're taking it as like the Vikings are listening.
Well, and you'd have to, like, if you're even if
But I
you're
mean,
working
like
on a contract, you
to
have
have
to
like an
listen.
honest, like, well, of course you're listening, but I mean, like listening, like if someone was gonna call us about Cook, like it'd be like it's not just listening, like you're considering. So with the Vikings, like, are they considering a trade? So
Which
we
I
don't
mean,
know,
they
or is
should.
it just
They
them
should.
calling? Well, we should, as far as it's hard to say because it's like, again, obviously if we lose Danielle Hunter, our defense it takes a huge back step, and we get Flores, and we even use our first round pick on another wide receiver on offense and all that kind of stuff. So you just think that it's just, I don't know, man. It's hard to go into next season and be competitive with defense and run it back. We're talking about this team kind of running it back and making it a little bit better. Like I said, with Flores and grabbing Addison, it's hard to believe that's what we do if we do make this Danielle Hunter trade. And I'm assuming the people upstairs, they know that if you lose Hunter, like that's a massive hole in our defense.
Mhm.
And then it does really feel like, man, you're gonna probably lean towards the rebuild, or at least maybe not the rebuild, but like the future, I guess is what you would say. Unless
Unless
it's like that kind of thing. Like if someone blows you away with a trade, then you take that. But I mean, I still kind of take it as like you're not. I don't know. You're not taking a real step to be better than last year, I guess.
I mean,
In
unless you
my
can,
opinion.
if you can get like a first and a third and trade away Daniel Hunter, and you can somehow either take that first and a later pick or use some mid-round picks and bring in a guy like Chase Young, who Washington is now shopping. Sure, he's had some injury problems, but that his rookie season before he got hurt, the guy was a monster coming out of
But
Ohio
yeah,
State. So
you're supposed
I
to
mean,
be
and since
generational.
they're listening as well, if you could somehow pull a trade off for him, where you move Daniel Hunter at
Yeah,
30, at almost 30 years old, and you
right,
bring in a guy who's 24, maybe that's how you
right,
work it out. But I mean, but still, it's just the timing to me seems odd. I mean, it would be a head scratcher. Like, I get it. You got to listen. If someone offers you a first round pick and you just don't feel like you can make it work, I see why
right,
you would take
right.
it. But it's going to be a head scratcher of, okay, why didn't you do this before the draft? And maybe there weren't calls before the draft. I'm sure there still were, but it's like, it's a head scratcher of like, he wasn't 100% in because you knew he was going to have issues with the contract. You didn't draft anybody. Did you like? You'd have to look at Quasi and be like, did you not plan for this? Because now you have a guy who you can't trust in Davenport. That's, as of right now, you really can't trust him, and you have a
Right.
bunch of kind of scrappy young guys behind him who we don't know about yet. So it's like,
Yeah.
were
So
you
that's why
considering this option?
Yeah, that's why ultimately I don't see it happening. It would be if it does, especially like you said, Quesi's. It doesn't seem like it's any sort of Quesi's plans or whatever. Obviously, he would have drafted edge rusher earlier or whatever. So it definitely seems like it's not going to happen unless he is absolutely blown away. And it's the only way I would agree with it too. And that's only because I am a little bit more concerned about our future of this team than our present. So that's the reason why I'm like, if we were blown away with the trade, I'd be like, all right, I can accept that. But you're also telling me that we're not taking this year as serious as like at least a lot of Vikings fans were thinking, and thinking we're going to go and maybe we could still be better than last year. But it is crazy to think, no defensive line and no pass rush pretty much.
Yeah.
So I say no. I say we don't. The trade doesn't happen. And if it does, it's at least a first round pick. I think at this
It
point.
would have to be. I think it would have to be. But I mean, we're finally getting some news at least. I know it was kind of
Yeah.
getting frustrating with how quiet it was, but maybe not the news everyone wanted to hear. But we did get news, obviously, from Rappaport. Minnesota Vikings receiving calls on Danielle Hunter, and it sounds like the interest is pretty serious. You just heard our thoughts. We want to know your guys' thoughts. Let us know what you think of this whole situation with Danielle Hunter. Should we trade him? Should we not? Drop those down in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.